Hello everyone, I am Shriley KS. I am here to present a brief seminar on the topic origin of cancer cells. So these are the contents. First I will be giving you an introduction of cancer. Then there are some terminologies I want to discuss. Then I will be talking about the history of cancer and types of cancer. Then we will be moving on to the main content, that is the origin of cancer, development of cancer. Also I will be discussing about oncogenes and tumor suppressors. After this, by the end of the video, we will summarize and I'll give you the conclusion. So, introduction. What is cancer? Cancer is an abnormal growth of cells caused by multiple changes in gene expressions, leading to dysregulated balance of cell proliferation and cell death, and ultimately evolving into a population of cells that can invade tissues and metastasize to distant sites, causing significant morbidity and, if untreated, death of the host. So there are millions of definitions for cancer. So if you really ask what is cancer, we can move on to the standard definition. That is, the World Health Organization has defined cancer as: cancer is a large group of diseases that can start in almost any organ or tissue of the body when abnormal cells grow uncontrollably, go beyond their usual boundaries to invade adjoining parts of the body and or spread to the other organs. The latter process is called metastasizing and is a major cause of death from cancer. This results in an imbalance of cell replication and cell death that favors growth of tumor cell population. Tumor is an abnormal lump or growth of cells. When the cell in the tumor are normal, it is benign. If something goes wrong and they overgrow to produce a lump, the cells are abnormal and can grow uncontrollably. They are cancerous cells and the tumor is malignant. Benign tumor won't invade nearby tissues or spread to other areas of the body. A benign tumor is less worrisome unless it is pressing on nearby tissues, nerves or blood vessels and causing damage. Fibroids in uterus or lipomas are examples of benign tumors, whereas malignant tumors means that the tumor is made of cancerous cells and it can invade nearby tissues. Some cancer can move into the bloodstream or lymph nodes where they can spread to other tissues within the body. This is called metastasis. Cancer can occur anywhere in the body, including breast, intestine, lungs, reproductive organs, blood, and skin. The occurrence of cancer varies in different organs. You can refer figure 1 for this. Clinically, cancer appears to be many different diseases with different phenotypic characteristics. As a cancerous growth progresses, genetic drift in the cell population produces cell heterogeneity in such characteristics as cell antigenicity, invasiveness, metastatic potential, rate of cell proliferation, differentiation state, and response to chemotherapeutic agents. At the molecular level, all cancers have several things in common, which suggests that the ultimate biochemical lesions leading to malignant transformation and progression can be produced by a common but not identical pattern of alteration of gene readout. So these are some important terminologies which I will be discussing in this video. That is tumor, apoptosis, tumorigenesis, oncology, field effects, tumor promoters, clonal selection, carcinogen, chemotherapy, etc. So the history of cancer. Cancer has been recognized throughout recorded history and was known to the ancient Egyptians, but it was not until the 17th century the formal study of cancer, that is oncology, was first documented. So it's no surprise that from the dawn of history people have written about cancer. Some of the earliest evidence of cancer is found among fossilized bone tumors, human mummies in ancient Egypt and in ancient manuscripts. Growth suggestive of the bone cancer called osteosarcoma have been seen in mummies. Bony skull destruction, as seen in cancer of head and neck, has been found too. The oldest description of cancer, although the word cancer was not used, was discovered in Egypt and dates back to about 3000 BC. It's called the Edwin Smith Papyrus and is a copy of part of an ancient Egyptian textbook on trauma surgery. It describes 8 cases of tumors or ulcers of the breast that were removed by cauterization with a tool called the fire drill. This is what the writing says about the disease, that there is no treatment. Later, Hippocrates described several kinds of cancer, referring to them as by the term carcinos, the Greek word for crab or crayfish, as well as carcinoma. This comes from the appearance of the cut surface of solid malignant tumor with the veins stretched on all sides, as the animal, the crayfish, has its feet, whence it derives its name. Then, Celsus, a Roman encyclopedist, translated carcinos into cancer, that is the Latin word for crab or crayfish. Then, Galen used the term onkos, that is the Greek term for swelling, to describe all tumors. It is from Galen's usage that we derive the modern word oncology. Moving on to the types of cancers. There are hundreds of types of cancer. So when I particularly counted, I could find 161 different types of cancer. So this can be the cancer of head and neck, endocrine, breast, blood, lung, etc. So both benign and malignant tumors are classified according to the type of cell from which they arise. Most cancer fall into 3 main groups, that is carcinoma, sarcomas and leukemia or lymphomas. Carcinomas, which include approximately 90% of human cancers, are malignancies of epithelial cells. Sarcomas, which are rare in humans, are solid tumors of connective tissues such as muscle, bone, cartilage and fibrous tissues. Leukemia and lymphomas, which account for approximately 7% of human malignancies, arise from the blood forming cell and from cells of the immune system respectively. Moving on to the main content, that is the origin of cancer cells. How does cancer originate? The cause of cancer can be classified to mainly 4 categories, that is chemical carcinogens, radiations, microbes and hereditary cause. Chemical carcinogens. Substances that cause cancer are called carcinogens. They have been identified by both studies in experimental animals and by epidemiological analysis of cancer frequencies in human population. For example, the high incidence of lung cancer among cigarette smokers. Among the more than 5,000 compounds in tobacco smoke, the genotoxic DNA damaging agents that occur both at the highest concentration and which have the strongest mutagenic effects are acrolein, formaldehyde, acronitrile 1,3-butadiene, acetaldehyde, ethylene oxide and isoprene. Aflatoxin is a potent liver carcinogen produced by some molds that contaminate improperly stored supplies of peanuts and other grains. Chemical carcinogens mainly contribute for the origin of cancer by damaging or mutating the normal DNA sequence in the cell. What happens after mutation is discussed further under this video. Other carcinogens contribute to cancer development by stimulating cell proliferation rather than by inducing mutations. Such compounds are referred to as tumor promoters. Since the increased cell division they induce facilitates the outgrowth of proliferative cell population during early stages of tumor development. Hormones, particularly estrogen, are important as tumor promoters in the development of some human cancers. Next, radiation. Higher energy radiations such as X-ray, gamma rays, alpha particles, beta particles, neutrons and UV etc. are capable of causing various cancers such as skin cancers, multiple myeloma, thyroid cancers, breast cancer, liver cancer, ovarian cancer etc. The radiation mainly disrupts the normal DNA sequence through mutation. This sometimes leads to the normal cell to become a cancerous cell. Then microbes. Some viruses are also causative agents of cancer in both experimental animals and in humans. These microbes cause cancer by various means of infection. Some have the ability to produce carcinogenic chemicals in the infected normal cell, converting it to a cancerous cell. Some cause mutation in genome of the infected cell, compromising the cell's ability to function as a normal cell, that is, conceding its program to undergo apoptosis at certain point, while some microbes, mainly viruses, incorporate a part of their genome to the infected cell's genome and produce oncogenes which cause cancer. Infection with Bacterium Helicobacter pylori causes stomach cancer. Also, the DNA damage can be caused by other microbes such as Aspergillus flavus, which produces aflatoxin. The common human cancers caused by viruses include liver cancer and cervical carcinoma, which together account for 10 to 20% of worldwide cancer incidence. Virus HHV8 causes Kaposi sarcoma. Then, hereditary cause of cancer. The vast majority of cancer are non-hereditary, that is, sporadic. But there are several types of cancer which can be inherited from parents to their offsprings. These cancers can appear in any stage of their life. Hereditary cancers are primarily caused by an inherited genetic defect. Less than 3% of the population are carriers of genetic mutation that has a large effect on cancer risk, and this causes less than 3 to 10% of cancer. Some of these include certain inherited mutation in the genes BRCA1, BRCA2 with more than 75% risk of breast cancer and ovarian cancer, and hereditary non-polyposis colorectal cancer, which is present about 3% in about 3% of people with colorectal cancers, among others. Then moving on to the development of cancer. At cellular level, the development of cancer is viewed as a multi-step process involving mutation and selection of cells with progressively increasing capacity of proliferation, survival, invasion and metastasis. Not all mutations lead to cancer. Some may lead to cell death or some abnormalities of the cell, but some mutations do lead to cancer. These mutations lead to tumor initiation from the mutated cell, which further leads to tumor progression around the infected cell. So, the first step in the development of cancer is mutation. Mutation is nothing but damage of DNA. DNA damage is considered to be the primary cause of cancer. More than 60,000 new naturally occurring instances of DNA damage arise on average per human cell per day due to endogenous cellular processes. Additional DNA damage can arise from exposure to exogenous agents. DNA damage can also be caused by substances produced in the body, that is endogenous agents. Macrophages and neutrophils in an inflamed colonic epithelium are the source of reactive oxygen species causing the DNA damage that initiates colonic tumorigenesis, and bile acids at high levels in the colons of human eating high fat diet also cause DNA damage and contribute to cancer. A deficiency of DNA repair would cause more DNA damage to accumulate, and increase the risk for cancer. For example, individuals with inherited impairment of any of the DNA repair genes are at the risk of cancer, with some defects causing up to 100% lifetime chance of cancer. For example, P53 mutation. However, such germline mutation, which cause highly penetrant cancer syndromes, are the cause of only about 1% of cancers. Then, tumor initiation. Tumor initiation is thought to be the result of genetic alterations leading to abnormal proliferation of single cell. The majority of cancers are non-hereditary or sporadic as discussed. About 30% of sporadic cancers do have some hereditary component that is currently undefined, while the majority or 70% of sporadic cancers have no hereditary component. In sporadic cancers, a deficiency in DNA repair is occasionally due to mutation in a DNA repair gene, much more frequently reduced or absent expression of DNA repair genes is due to epigenetic alterations that reduce or silence gene expression. When expression of DNA repair genes is reduced, this causes a DNA repair deficiency. With the DNA repair deficiency, DNA damage persists in cell at higher than typical level. This excess damage causes an increased frequency of mutation or epimutation. The somatic mutation and epigenetic alteration caused by DNA damage and deficiency in DNA repair accumulate in field defects. So, what is field defect? Field defects are normally appearing tissues with multiple alterations and are common precursors to development of the disordered and over-proliferating clone of tissue in a cancer. Such field defects may have numerous mutation and epigenetic alterations. So, these are some examples of DNA repair genes and their functions and their repair pathway. So, yeah. Then the cancerous cells also release growth factors around it to stimulate the progression of tumor. So, these are the examples of growth factors that is present in our body and the tissue of origin and the target tissue. So, here is an animation depicting the initiation of tumor cells. So, you can compare the division happening in normal cells and cancerous cells here. Then, tumor progression, which is the most important part. Tumor progression continues as additional mutation occurs within the cells of the tumor population. Some of these mutations confer a selective advantage to the cells, such as more rapid growth and the descendants of a cell bearing such as mutation. Such a mutation will consequently become dominant within the tumor population. The process is called clonal selection, since new clone of tumor cells has evolved on the basis of its increased growth rate or other properties such as survival, invasion or metastasis that confer a selective advantage. Clonal selection continues throughout the tumor development. So, tumors continuously become more rapid growing and increasingly malignant. Cancer cells typically display abnormalities in the mechanisms that regulate normal cell proliferation, differentiation and survival. Taken together, these characteristics property of cancer cells provide a description of malignancy at the cellular level. A primary distinction between cancer cell and normal cells is in culture that normal cells display density dependent inhibition of cell proliferation. So, normal cell, what happens here is normal cells proliferate until they reach a finite cell density, which is determined in part by the availability of growth factors added to the culture medium, usually in the form of serum. They then cease proliferating and become quiescent, arrested in the G0 stage of the cell cycle. The proliferation of most cancer cells, however, is not sensitive to density dependent inhibition. So, rather than responding to the signals that cause normal cells to cease proliferation and enter G0, tumor cells generally continue growing to high cell density culture, mimicking their uncontrolled proliferation in vivo. Then many cancerous cells have reduced requirement of extracellular growth factors. The proliferation of most cells is controlled in least part by polypeptide growth factors. The growth factor requirements of many tumor cells are reduced compared to their normal counterparts, contributing to their unregulated proliferation of tumor cells. In some cases, cancer cells produce their own growth factors that stimulate proliferation. Such abnormal production of growth factor by responsive cell leads to continuous autostimulation of cell division, and the cancer cells are therefore less dependent on growth factors from other physiologically normal sources. Then there is a phenomenon called as contact inhibition. For example, normal fibroblasts migrate across the surface of a culture dish when cultured until they make contact with neighboring cells. Further cell migration is then inhibited and normal cells adhere to each other, forming an orderly array of cells on a culture dish surface. Tumor cells, however, in contrast, continue moving after contact with their neighbors, migrate over adjacent cells and grow in disordered multilayer patterns. Not only the movement but also the proliferation of many normal cells is inhibited by cell-cell contact, and the cancer cells are characteristically insensitive to such contact inhibition of growth. Malignant cells generally secrete protease that digest extracellular matrix components, allowing cancer cells to invade adjacent normal tissues. Secretion of collagens, for example, appear to be an important determinant of ability of carcinomas to digest and penetrate through basal lamellae to invade underlying connective tissue. Cancer cells are also less stringently regulated than normal cells by cell and cell matrix interaction. Most cancer cells are less adhesive than normal cells, often as a result of reduced expression of cell surface adhesion molecules. For example, loss of E-cadherin, the principal adhesion molecule of epithelial cells, is important in the development of carcinomas. Then, cancer cells secrete growth factors that promote formation of new blood vessels, that is angiogenesis. Angiogenesis is needed to support growth of a tumor beyond the size of about 1,000,000 cells, at which point new blood vessels are required to supply oxygen and nutrients to the proliferating tumor cells. The formation of such new blood vessels is important not only in supporting tumor growth but also in metastasis. The actively growing new capillaries formed in response to angiogenic stimulation are easily penetrated by the tumor cells, providing a ready opportunity for cancer cells to enter the circulatory system and begin the metastatic process. Cancer cells also fail to differentiate normally. Such defective differentiation is closely coupled to abnormal proliferation, since most fully differentiated cells cease cell division. Rather than carrying out their normal differentiation program, cancer cells are usually blocked at an early stage of differentiation, consistent with their continued active proliferation. Programmed cell death or apoptosis is an integral part of the differentiation program of many cell types, including blood cells. Many cancer cells fail to undergo apoptosis, therefore exhibit increased lifespan compared to the normal counterparts. This failure of cancer cells to undergo programmed cell death contributes substantially to tumor development. So, all these factors contribute for the progression of tumor cells in the animal body. Then, oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes. An oncogene is a gene that has the potential to cause cancer. Cancer results from alteration in critical regulatory genes that control cell proliferation, differentiation, and survival. Studies of tumor viruses reveal that specific genes, called oncogenes, are capable of inducing cell transformation, thereby providing the first insights into the molecular basis of cancer. In tumor cells, these genes are often mutated or expressed at high levels. The normal cell genes from which the oncogenes originate are called proto-oncogenes. They are important cell regulator genes in many cases, including proteins that function in the signal transduction pathway controlling normal cell proliferation. The oncogenes are abnormally expressed or mutated forms of the corresponding proto-oncogenes. As a consequence of such alterations, the oncogenes induce abnormal cell proliferation and tumor development. So, we know that the activation of cellular oncogenes represents only one of the two distinct types of genetic alteration involved in tumor development. The other is inactivation of tumor suppressor genes. Oncogenes drive abnormal cell proliferation as a consequence of genetic alteration that either increase gene expression or lead to uncontrolled activity of the oncogene encoded proteins, whereas tumor suppressor genes represent the opposite side of cell growth control, normally acting to inhibit cell proliferation and tumor development. In many tumors, these genes are lost or inactivated, thereby removing negative regulators of cell proliferation and contributing to the abnormal proliferation of tumor cells. So, here are some examples of oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes found in humans and the types of cancer they lead to if they are mutated. To summarize, here is a flow chart which is very well self-explanatory, which gives you a brief idea about how a cancer can originate. And here figure 18, you can see some pictures where you can compare the normal tissues of some organs and the same tissues at cancerous condition. Conclusion: cancer poses a major threat to already overstretched healthcare services, and this magnitude of the problem had been elegantly summarized by Dr. Gro Harlem Brundtland, the former Director General of World Health Organization. He said that the global burden of cancer continues to increase. In the year 2000, 5.3 million men and 4.7 million women developed a malignant tumor and 6.2 million died from the disease. The number of new cases is expected to grow by 50% over the next 20 years to reach 15 million by 2020. There has been a considerable improvement in the field of medicine in the diagnosis and treatment of cancer in the 21st century. They include chemotherapy, immunotherapy, radiation therapy, surgery, bone marrow transplantation, hormone therapy, etc. Though we have advanced so far, cancer still continues to take millions of lives each year. In the year 2017, cancer happens to be one of the leading cause of deaths globally after cardiovascular diseases, claiming a total of 9.5 million lives. The highest incidence of cancer was seen in Asia according to WHO data 2018, and the numbers have been increasing till date. To support the fighters, admire the survivors, and to honor those who lost their battle with cancer, every year, 4th of February is observed as the World Cancer Day, spreading awareness across the world. Finally, prevention is better than cure. It is always better to have a healthy lifestyle and limiting one's exposure to any kind of carcinogens or radiation can save millions of lives annually. It's not a dead end yet. There are still thousands of research going on in the field of oncology, trying to identify the causes, cheaper diagnostic tools, and affordable and better treatment across the world. So these are my references, and I have specifically mentioned this book because it's one of the amazing book ever written on cancer by Siddhartha Mukherjee. I urge you all, the viewers, to read this once at least. Acknowledgements. Firstly, I would like to thank my college, Yurajas College, Mysore, and my department. There is the Department of Molecular Biology, and my HOD, Dr. N.S. Devaki, for providing me this opportunity to learn about this topic about cancer and to give a seminar on it. And I also thank my guide, Ms. Sanjana Sajan, who has been helping me throughout the preparation and presentation, boosting my confidence. And thank you all for watching.